the United States Trade Representative now proposing potentially millions of dollars in fees for each time a Chinese ship makes a port call in the United States. Now, this could mean that the prices for goods on those ships could soon get more expensive for U.S. consumers. It's one to watch as the U.S. Trade Representative will hear comments through March 24th. But it also appears a way for the Trump administration to potentially escalate against China even beyond tariffs. Joining me now is the CEO of Flexport, a leader in global supply chain management and logistics. Back here on the show once again, Ryan Petersen. Ryan, always great to see you.
Great to be here, Mike.
So you had a great post online. You were like, yeah, I know everyone's talking about Elon. I know everyone's talking about Doge. I get it. But this is what you should be paying attention to. Explain why.
Well, it's a pretty big deal. They're talking about imposing a fee of up to $1.5 million per port call. Most of them would be $1 million. And a typical ship, this is for Chinese-made ships. So if the ship's made in China, you got to pay $1 million at each port call. Now, a typical ship will call 3 times. It'll stop, for example, in Seattle, then Oakland, then LA. So that's $3 million per ship. Ship on each voyage will make about $15 million in revenue. So $3 million is a pretty big tax to pay on all container. Now, all container shipping arriving in the U.S., we of the new fleet, China's making about 70% of container ships. And really interesting here is that if the fleet has even one container ship in it, even if the ship itself is not made in China, if that company has one Chinese-made ship, they would still have to pay $500,000 per port call. So there's almost no getting around this. Every container shipping line has at least one ship made in China, it seems like.
Yeah, so let's just use those back of the envelope numbers, right? 3 million possibly on 15, that's 20%. I'm looking at the top imports from China: smartphones, computers, batteries, toys, video games. That cost gets passed on somewhere, Ryan. Does that mean my phone or my computer or my kid's toy goes up 20%?
No, it won't go up 20% because this is just the price of shipping it. Now, depend on the value of the goods, what the ratio is of the price of shipping it, but it'll go up. Not many ways around that. The ocean carriers will try to reconfigure their networks. They might sell off Chinese ships. The interesting thing here is that it's not like the U.S. produces these container ships. The container ships made in America are really small. They're kind of for Jones Act, we call it, which is domestic shipping going to Hawaii, Alaska, Puerto Rico. These big container ships that are going to and from Asia, they're either made in China, Japan, or Korea. So the big winners here will be Japan and Korea. The other big winner is going to be Canada. Because the U.S.
Why is that?
The carriers will bring the ships to Canada, unload there, and bring it down on a train. So, yeah, it's interesting to see how it's going to play out.
Speaking of Canada, here was President Trump earlier today about tariffs. I want to get your reaction on the other side.
The tariffs are going forward on time, on schedule. This is an abuse that took place for many, many years.
What are you seeing, Ryan? The president says tariffs on China and Mexico are, of course, our partners, neighbors to the north and the south, in a week, and then also reciprocal tariffs in a month, basically starting April 2nd is the plan. From your perch, and again, for our audience here on NewsNation or those listening to us on SiriusXM, Flexport sees everything across the globe. What are you seeing right now as companies are trying to figure all this out?
Yeah, and Flexport is one of the largest logistics companies in the world, and we have technology that monitors everything that's happening in terms of trade flows. The reality is it's difficult with these with Trump's policy statements to see what is he really going to do and what's negotiating leverage. He's figured out that he has major leverage over Canada and Mexico. Those countries badly need trade with the United States, frankly, more than the United States needs trade with them. And he can get them to do other things that matter on the political, geopolitical, geostrategic stage, which might involve, it definitely involves border security, immigration. We just heard the sad story right before me coming on here about that. Fentanyl, drugs, there's a lot of other things that matter. And if he can get them to do what he wants through tariffs, it might be that the tariffs never actually hit. If they do, it's not good for really either side. People only trade because both of them are made better off. So any barrier to trade makes both parties worse off.
Thank you for watching. And make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.